Hello. This is the Historic Preservation Commission, Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021. And guess what? We're live. We don't have to say that we're doing this Zoom, but we are doing it through Katie. You said that it's being broadcast on Beaufort County. So if you're on, I guess that's how you're listening to us. Let's see, we have a call to order, and if you could do that for us, Darby, please.
When I call your name, please state here or present for the record. Elaine Gallagher-Adams.
Present.
Jesse Solomon.
Present.
Mary Vox Bell. Carrie Schmelter.
Present.
Michael Lavecchio.
Present.
Bruce Trember.
Present.
Thank you.
Notice regarding adjournment. The Historic Preservation Commission will not hear new items after 9:30 unless authorized by a majority vote of the commission members present. Items which not have been heard before 9:30 may be continued to the next regular meeting or special meeting date as determined by the commission members. Notice regarding public comments. Every member of the public who is recognized to speak shall address the chairman, and in speaking avoid disrespect to the commission, staff, and other members of the meeting. State your name and address when speaking for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And we do have an adoption of the agenda, which we have in front of us, and I'm looking for a motion on that, please.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second that motion.
Any discussions? All in favor? Aye. I guess we don't have to say, our names anymore because we can just say, any opposed? Boy, I'm not used to doing that anymore, so that's pretty cool. And the adoption of minutes that we have written. Hopefully you guys had a chance to read those, and can I get an adoption of the minutes, please?
I propose we adopt the minutes.
Thank you. We have an adoption. Do I have a second?
Second that proposal.
Any discussions? And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposition. So the minutes are adopted. Public comments in regards to this agenda? Katie, Darby?
We do not have any.
Okay, and we do have some folks out there, so hello. And hello, officer. Thank you for being here. Then do we have any old business? The old business that we just wanted to discuss, we were just talking about it briefly, is just for the folks that are here, is this is going to be broadcast on the public channel for Beaufort or Bluffton, correct? But it's not going to be on Facebook anymore?
Correct. So it will be on the town website. It's on the Beaufort County channel. They're streaming it for us.
Okay, so that's pretty much the way you got to watch it if you're going to watch it from home now. So now we're into our new business, and we have 2 items today. And Katie, you are the presenter, so thank you, Katie.
I am.
Oh, and just a little homework since we haven't been around for a while. If you do have cell phones, just kind of turn them off so they're not buzzing.
Are our monitors supposed to be on? Or not?
And we do have every mic is hot, is that correct?
They should be?
The green light's on,
Okay,
but
perfect.
our monitors are dead. Mine has a red light, but it's not receiving anything.
Well, this certainly is nice to see people's faces.
Yeah.
And we're all split up from, plexiglass and.
Just, you can sneeze right at me and I don't care.
No, just see the, yeah, you just. Or vice versa. But you always spray when you talk.
Of course. Odd.
Next Monday, no HPRC.
Saw that.
You can help us with the diocese.
Is it a matter of sending the broadcast to more than one place? Well, we have the written stuff in front of us, so that
And
helps.
it's behind us as
Oh,
well.
that's true. We can just turn around. Well, yes.
So I apologize for the technical difficulties there on our first meeting back. I have turned these a little bit towards you, and there's the paper copy in front of you. Hopefully, I will have it big enough on the screen that we will be able to see it some. I apologize again. The first item on here is 7 Lawton Street. It is a Certificate of Appropriateness application. If you'd like to join us at the applicant table, you're welcome to.
And who do we have?
My name is Angelo Calesa.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
How do you do? Yes, thank you. Sounds like it's
Angela, we may
working.
have to have you, that one isn't, that's something else coming through, but we'll have you speak into this mic if you need to answer any questions, just so that when it's broadcast, it is still something that is able to be heard by those at home. So it is a site feature application. As you're aware, you typically do not see site feature applications in front of you. A site feature application is typically reviewed at staff level unless there is something that is not in strict compliance with the Unified Development Ordinance. So in this case, the applicant has requested the use of fiberglass shingles on an existing one-story commercial structure. It's located at 7 Lawton Street, which is in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District. This is the location map. You can see it is on Lawton Street, about 3 lots off of Calhoun Street, and then Boundary Street actually runs right along the right side of the screen here.
The old mod, what was the
Yes,
name?
it was Mamie Min Mods.
Okay.
Yes. You can see it is very well in this neighborhood center HD zoning district, surrounded on all 4 sides by the same. And then this is an existing commission's photo. This is a little bit old. I stole it from Google Maps. And so I could not avoid that tree. I tried several different angles. However, this is the building that we are discussing today. And then this example here, they're proposing the use of a 5V metal on the blue portion here, and then on the remainder of the roof, it would be the landmark residential roofing here, which this is the fiberglass shingle. This is the proposed material. You can see it, what it looks like here. There is not too much difference in appearance from one that has a paper or a natural mat underneath it. However, in this case, because the Unified Development Ordinance specifically calls out that it can be either asphalt or metal shingles, this is specifically a fiberglass shingle material and is listed as having that fiberglass glass mat there, and then in the technical information calls out that it is a 2-piece laminated fiberglass-based construction. So there's a double location where it speaks to that it is fiberglass, and so we need to bring it before our HPC in order to review those criteria. When the HPC is reviewing a site feature HD, the criteria are found in section 3.193 of the Unified Development Ordinance, and they have the authorization to approve the application as submitted by the applicant, approve the application with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. And so staff is requesting that determination from you. In the past, as has been past practice, we have used these criteria for when a deviation is permitted from the strict compliance of the Unified Development Ordinance. It's that the particular nature of the property, its location, size, setting, shape, or physical characteristics, or other aspect of the property, or its proposed use substantially justifies some adjustment to those standards. The intent of the specific standard can be achieved on site through alternative means or specific design approaches, and then the methods volunteered by the applicant will effectively remediate or mitigate any potential adverse effects for this. Again, this is the proposed materials cut sheet here. And the location for it would be the majority of the roof, the area that's here in the yellow, with the blue section being the 5V metal. The 5V metal was approved under a different site feature, along with some hardscape and landscaping changes that they were proposing to the site, and then wrapping the columns on the front, which they all did meet the letter of the Unified Development Ordinance and was approved as submitted by the applicant. So we have the applicant here to speak on behalf of the application. If you have any questions, I'm happy to flip through some slides. I didn't put every single page of the application in the slideshow because it seemed like a lot of words for a screen this size. However, it is available on the town website for people who are not sitting with it in front of them here at the dais.
So we know, is this a contributing structure?
It is not. It is not. It is not. The one next door is, but this one is not.
Hey, we
Oh,
have
there we
screens.
go.
Yay! Thank you so much.
So let's see, you have staff recommendations?
The staff is requesting that the HPC make a determination on the appropriateness of the use of a fiberglass shingle material opposed to an asphalt or metal shingle as listed in the Unified Development Ordinance.
Our duty is to say yes to the fiberglass, and if we have any discussions on why that shouldn't be allowed, or what is, I know there was, you had something on there, right here, yes.
Fiberglass shingles look a lot like asphalt. It used to be fiberglass shingles were a little shiny, and now they're not. So it's kind of a different animal than maybe when this was even written, UDO. I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, to my eyes, I can't tell the difference between this and asphalt.
So as far as discussions go, it looks like, do you have anything to add regard to the
Well,
product?
unless you had any questions, I'm here to do my best.
Okay. So I guess what we can do is that somebody can make a motion. Is there any other discussion? Have a motion that will allow the use of fiberglass.
Is there any
Is that all that we
concern?
really need to say?
Sorry, is there any concern with May River watershed with whatever the little
Pebbles?
sand things are on
Granules?
there going down? 'Cause if
There has not been. It was sent out to our watershed department as part of the routing process, and they did not provide any comment back on it. This is a material that is fairly standard throughout town. Because in our historic district, we do have those specific standards. We do have to bring it before you all today. I do ask if, when you make a motion, you can clarify why the deviation is permitted, so that it is clear for the record.
Now, the new technology is you brought up the little pebbles.
Yeah, what are the little pebbles? Are they
Granules?
fiberglass or, yeah, the granules, what are they?
Granules, just made out of synthetic materials. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, just because
Yeah.
it's hard to hear on the recording.
So sorry, everyone.
I'm curious if they're actual mineral materials or if they are fiberglass or
They are
plastic.
mineral materials. The fiberglass is the main structure of the shingle that is saturated with the asphalt.
Right.
And the granules will be the protective layer added on top to
Okay.
provide the color, the shading, and also protection to the asphalt, which is the one providing the
As long as they're
waterproof
mineral and
part of
not
it.
plastic.
They're not.
Okay. Yeah, I have no problem with it.
And Elaine, that's listed, I just found the location where it is in the highlighted area on your screen, which is very small, I apologize. It says, Landmark Series shingles are composed of a fiberglass matte base. Ceramic-coated mineral granules are tightly embedded in a carefully refined, water-resistant asphalt.
Okay.
2 pieces of the shingle are firmly laminated together in a special tough asphaltic cement. All Landmark shingles have a self-sealing adhesive strips.
Oh, so the fiberglass is just the base. Okay. More or less asphalt shingles.
More or less, they do have the 2-ply, and so it is technically in both pieces of it
Yeah,
in
they
this
just
case.
don't tear as easily.
Correct.
Okay?
Okay. No worries on my part.
So if there's no discussion, it seems like a motion and then including Charlotte, did you have something to add?
I make a motion to accept this substitution of materials based on the fact that they are, for all practical purposes, 90% asphalt shingle from the looks of it. That they're very, very close to an asphalt shingle.
Second the motion.
Is there any discussion on this item? So, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous, so you're ready to go.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yes, thank you,
Good.
sir.
Thank you so much.
Have a great evening.
I will follow up with the approval letters tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
James, if you'd like to join us.
And it's just you today, James?
James, when you handed me this, does it have those plans on it by chance? That's what I thought. I hadn't plugged it in yet, though.
And now this is, we've looked at other properties in here. Now this is for building 3.
Correct.
And it's the third one we've looked at. Be the fourth building up? Fifth building up?
Is this
Yeah, I
the,
feel like we saw one
this is
out
the
of order.
fourth, yeah, we've seen
You've only seen 3 from us.
Yeah.
There's one with
an existing, well, there's
So that makes
actually,
4 total with this one.
there's actually 2 built, right? I mean,
yes, there's 2 built.
Oh, that's right.
There's 3.
this is the last one of all the buildings.
This is a Certificate of Appropriateness application to allow the construction of a new 2.5-story mixed-use building of approximately 5,423 heated square feet, located at 5 Mariana Way, which is Building 3 in the Old Village Square development. It is in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District, and it is zoned Neighborhood General HD. So you can see here, this is the property. We have seen this property a few times now with the zoning map. It is here in the orange, and you can see it a little bit better on the site plan. The point in that parcel comes down, so the point that you see here at the bottom of the screen, or the bottom of the parcel,
Essentially an easement to the May River Road, basically, isn't
is a portion of property that extends to the May River Road, yes.
It's a
So-
walkway, though, not a driveway, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, it is a pedestrian access there. So the building we are reviewing tonight is Building 3, and I have zoomed in on it here so that you can see it because I've gotten used to that with my Zoom meetings at home. So as you guys were mentioning, this is the very first building that was built in this development. It has been there for several years. Then Building 2 was reviewed and approved, and then following that, we reviewed Building 5, I believe, 4, and now we are looking at 3. It may have been 4, 5, and now 3.
it? So again, just as a note, this has been all pre-approved for the construction of these buildings. We're just simply approving the building.
There is a development
Development.
development plan in place which allowed for the building pads in this location, yes. This is the first floor plan. It is going to be a commercial tenant space with the second floor plans having 2 residential units. And the loft floor, or third floor of the structure, has 2 tenants here as well. And the roof plans, again, I will go back through these more slowly as we review them a bit, but the front elevation here, so there is a minor tweak with the plans. What you are reviewing tonight are the plans that are in your packet and on this screen. They are the plans that were submitted. However, the HPRC did request a few things from the applicant at their HPRC meeting, and the applicant has moved to try and address some of those items. And so I have a set of plans that he brought with him tonight. I have not had a chance to review them entirely. I looked at them for a couple seconds before the meeting started, in hopes to possibly help address some of those comments and how he proposes to work those items into the design to make it meet the criteria.
I'm just looking for clarification. So therefore, what we're looking at is what we actually reviewed on HPRC. The comments, help me out,
So this is a second version. However, there is a third version which we have not reviewed and is not what the motion can be made off of tonight. However, if the HPC feels comfortable with how he's addressing these items, it could be approved at a staff level with HPRC oversight, because HPRC, again, has no approval authority. It's only 3 members of the full 7-member commission, but the HPRC could provide feedback to staff to make sure that this fits. He's brought those before us tonight so that you can take a look at them so the full commission can see them, but any motion that is made needs to be off of the ones that you are looking at in your packet and on your screen. And as we get a little bit further, I promise I can help you a bit with that.
Sounds a little confusing.
Well, we can then reference some of the things that they've done.
Sorry, that one doesn't seem to be working.
I want to apologize. I was out of town when these were submitted. I received Katie's comments yesterday, and I reviewed them this morning and had a panic attack, mainly because this submittal appears as if we completely ignored all of the things that you gave us as feedback at the HPRC, which we did not. And so I perfectly accept the fact that we are reviewing the drawings on your screen, but I did bring copies of the drawings that were supposed to be submitted for reference only. Obviously, you won't be approving those drawings, but for instance, one of the comments is the column spacing is horizontal, not vertical. We fixed that. It would appear that we completely ignored that comment in the HPRC, and I apologize.
So essentially what you're saying is that just that is, we reviewed this in HPRC, we made comments, those were not included in what we're reviewing, so therefore they weren't ignored, they just weren't put into this submittal.
So Katie
So
basically
therefore-
made comments, your column spacing's wrong. Yes.
I saw that.
It's
It
wrong.
was just like-
And so I brought a copy of how we would propose to fix that, if you would so like to review it, because sometimes it's easier to see a picture than to say, we're going to
Is it
fix it.
print only, or do we have a PDF?
I brought flash drives
Okay.
as well, so we could look at them. And again, I just personally want to apologize. I had an absolute panic attack at lunchtime today and reached out to Katie and said, oh my gosh, it looks like we were rude and didn't respond. So we actually made all the changes you asked for regarding the cornice, simplifying the details, making it a traditional arch, fixing the column spacing. We did all of that. But you wouldn't know it because you didn't get the drawings.
Katie, essentially what you're saying is that we have to go back to the comments that we made in HPRC or any other comments that are additionally going to be made, and pretending that we didn't have that meeting. I mean,
Well, what it is if we have the same comments that we had at HPRC, we have to
have
make
to
those
make that
comments
comment in the
our
motion.
Yes.
Right, and the staff recommendations, I'm skipping all of the pages here, so don't get dizzy if you're looking at the screen. One moment.
And now also you're saying that with the recommendations that if the motion, anything that's done for the motion can be approved by HPRC, or can't we just make it a staff recommendation? Why do we have to make it an HPRC?
As staff, because they are design changes that are being proposed, I would prefer that there was HPRC oversight on it. However, because the HPRC is not an approval authority, it would be a staff level approval. But if the
With the blessing
HPRC
of
has
HPRC.
concerns when it goes back to them, basically what that extra level of review allows is that if the plans are brought to the HPRC when they're placed on the agenda, and you all look at them and say, whoa, that's not what we discussed at HPC at all, you can send them back to HPC. It would wait until the next available meeting and be placed on that agenda.
Eliminating, so this could actually show up on not this Monday, but the following Monday's HPRC. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, so then we either say, yep, that's what they are, or no, they deviate a lot.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not going to confirm the date of that meeting because I don't have a submittal yet and I need to look at the agenda timelines there. However,
Okay, the possibility of it
yes,
showing up.
it would show up on an HPRC agenda if that is how you choose to move forward. So again, I apologize if this is confusing. When you look at the plans, the recommendations that staff made reflect the plans that you're looking at and that are in your staff report. And so if you make a motion with these recommendations, they in theory would reflect what he has proposed. So I'm gonna move.
I need to see, are you guys all clear on this?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Okay, and I'll move through the presentation, and then at the end, before any motion is made, I'll try and summarize it a little bit clearly. I can type something like I have a few times in red, just so that it's not part of the staff report, but it is kind of explaining how that goes, okay?
I guess my question is, are we gonna be reviewing changes that have already been made? So for instance, in your recommendation, are you gonna be going over things even though they've already been corrected?
That's what it
Yes,
sounds like is
because
gonna have
they've-
to happen, yes.
There's no.
Yes, because they have not been formally submitted as corrected. So anything that we review tonight has not been submitted. What you were looking at on the screen is all that you have the authority to make a motion on tonight, because nothing else has been submitted formally through the Town of Bluffton.
How can we prevent this moving forward from, very confusing?
I'm not going to take any more vacation.
I'm just, yeah.
No more
I'm just-
vacations for
It
James.
is what it is this time, and I think enough of us understand it that we can get a motion worded the right way, right? We just need to look at it.
Let's start by looking at it, if that's okay with the commission, and then if we have
Yes.
questions on what it is after we've had a little time to look at it, I can try and answer them, James can try and answer them, or if worse comes to worse and we are still not understanding it, we can ask James if he'd be willing to table it until the next meeting. That being said, before you make that decision, let me walk through the presentation and just see what it is that is before us tonight, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the front elevation. Items of note, column spacing, the central detail here, the cornice detail. The rear elevation is here. We've seen similar. This does not extend up into the third story as it has on a couple of the other buildings, so it drops the roof line a bit lower here. There are shingles, I give up. There are shutters on all windows that can accept them on this building here. And then this is the right elevation, which faces towards the oldest building in the development. And then the left elevation, which faces towards building 5. Oh, I'm twisted, I'm sorry. This faces the oldest building in the development, and the right elevation faces building 5. So I've had enough time between the site plan and the elevations to get myself turned around here. So you've got the building 5 back here with your front elevation facing internal to the development, and the rear elevation is facing the back. This is the building that has the largest space between the property line and the structure. The other ones are a lot closer there because they're commercial developments on either side, and it is residential in nature behind it there. So there's an extended buffer there. Then we have our service yards. They are shown on both the side elevations, as well as there's space for service material on the rear elevations here. Here are some architectural details. We have sections through here as well as through the wall, and then the service yard detail. I have spliced together several of these pages, so when you see them in the presentation, they are not on the same sheet necessarily in your plan, but this is how I can get them big enough for you guys to see them and read them, hopefully, at least in part. More sections through the porch and through walls, as well as the window detail, and then there is a shutter detail. The shutter dog detail is on a separate page because I cut it in half. Here is the window and door schedule, showing that all of those external doors, they are going to be wood or metal. I'm sorry, I'm on the windows there, but then you have them here, along with the storefront details. Here's your shutter dog down at the very bottom, because that's where I cut it in half. This is the landscape plan, similar to the way that we approved the other two buildings. We have asked that you approve only this page of the landscape plan, as the other pages were reviewed with the other buildings. I have zoomed in for Jesse on the plant table. So that is on your screen as well. And I can go backwards.
They, I know.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it was just an invasive plant, but no, this is mostly native. There's some adapted species, but no, I mean, and they're buffering well. Good group.
With a certificate of appropriateness, the HPC reviews the criteria in section 318.3 of the Unified Development Ordinance and has the authority to approve with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant, or at the applicant's request, table the application. The staff recommendations based on the plans that were submitted, that are on your screen, and are included in your staff reports that you've reviewed are as follows. So the first is that the loft floor must be reduced in size so that the possible floor area in the third story with a headroom of 5 feet or more is no less than 70% of the story beneath it. On the cover sheet of the application, or on the cover sheet of the set of plans, it is under the 70% threshold, but on the room labels and side, there's a table on the side of the plans as well. It shows that it exceeds that 70%. And then if you do the math with the leader lines, it also exceeds the 70% there. So this is something that has been looked at. It's not as easy to see on the plan, so I'm going to hold off on flipping backwards. The second item is that the column spacing on the front and side elevations must be revised to be spaced no further apart than they are tall, as measured from the center lines of the columns. I think it's honestly easier to escape and do
I have a question on the plan review comments. Did our HPRC comments get added to this? It looks like they did not.
the ones that had not been addressed yet. So this is a second set of plans.
But
Yeah, some of them are on there, though.
yeah. So,
So the one we saw was version number 1. They came back with version number 2, fixed some of the things that we said in HPRC. And the ones that weren't fixed show up here. Is that correct?
the ones that weren't fixed have not been shown. Oh, I'm sorry.
no,
Yes,
no,
are in the staff
our
report.
HPRC meeting.
So anything
Yes.
that's already been addressed is gone from the comments. We were on the side columns.
Yes. So you've got right here, this one and this bay. And then I think it's just the second floor on the side. And then the front elevation has these bays here are actually wider than they are tall, as well as these here, which these are more glaring than the first story ones.
Want to address each one of them as we go, or do you
Mr.
want?
Chairman, I'm going to ask for this one if we can go through all of staff's recommendation, if it's okay with you, before he addresses them, because we have this weird, unique situation.
But then we're going to review. If you want to review that, but then I think it's better if we go through each item rather than just blanket talk.
If I could go through each item, response and context to the proposed solution.
It doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter to me.
I see your.
I mean, I would prefer to go, to just go through all the comments, but either way, I'm fine with.
Okay, yeah.
There aren't so many that will get lost, but
There are 7.
Okay, great.
So there, and one of them is a sign permit. Surprise, spoiler alert. The The third comment is that the colonnade on the side elevations must be increased to be a minimum of 8 feet from the build-to line to the center of the inside column face. So that is, you can see it on the floor plan that's the roof plan, the first floor here. It's a little bit light on the screen, but from the wall to the inside column face on the front elevation does meet that standard, with the small exception here where the center pilasters, yeah, thank you, reduce in width here. And then on the side elevations, it's where it's a little bit too narrow here. So it's just about 6 feet there instead of 8. The fourth comment is that per the traditional construction pattern, section 19, material change on the first floor must be revised to be at an interior corner. The plans that were submitted, it was challenging to see where exactly that material change was, and if it continued above the windows, which is what it appeared to be. When it turned that corner, it became an exterior corner material change. And I have section 19 here. It's a little bit dark on the screen, but I can make it a bit bigger. So if it is going to be joined at an exterior corner, it recommends toothing it together so that it makes a more refined exterior corner change, or changing it at an interior corner only. Our Unified Development Ordinance likes interior corners more than it likes toothing with the more refined material, so that is what we encourage. However, either one of those solutions would be found acceptable. And that is on your elevations. You cannot, but this is the location in question, see it here behind these columns. It was the question of what the material was, and then when it turned the corner, it changes to the siding material that you can see here. So you can kind of see some brickwork back here, which I believed to be just on the pilasters from the center, but it just wasn't quite clear as it moved forward here. So we do see that it changes to that siding material here, and if the front is brick, that's where that challenge lies.
All section through that? Very small.
Please hold, wait. We had it here.
It's actually, we'll see it in a little bit.
A51.
Brick there is no brick on that back wall. It's actually hardy trim and panel that.
And then the brick pilasters come off of it.
Yes.
Or pilasters are only in the center section where.
Right.
It kind of
Right, so it's not actually, it's not changing.
At an exterior corner, correct, because it's just the brick pilasters. Again, just with where these wall sections were and the views that we were getting from the sides and the labels where they were marked, it was too challenging to make that determination. So the fifth item is that the storefront material needs to be should be revised from a 2-inch aluminum storefront to a more traditional material, or at minimum have thick framing members added to provide contrast. This section is one of those that always makes me laugh a little bit as you read this section of the book here. It says that 2-inch aluminum, natural, silver, or bronze, dark brown storefront has been enormously overused. Avoid it like the plague. So in my comment, it's a little more refined than that. However, the 2-inch storefront material is where it was posing the problem. And then if it is going to be used, have some parts of the design that is thick to contrast against it. And so in the window and door schedule here, you can see where that framing material is. So this is that 2-inch aluminum material here that we were discussing. and that runs along the front of the building. And then the sixth item is that a cornice detail must be provided, as not enough information was provided to ensure compliance with the architectural standards. This was something that was asked for at HPRC and just didn't make an appearance here in the final set of plans. And the last one is the one that you were also fond of seeing, is that if there is any signage proposed, it is not being reviewed as part of the Certificate of Appropriateness. And so a site feature application would need to be brought forward for any of that proposed signage. So even though you see the location of the sign here, that is not an approval, that sign can be placed there with whatever words they want. It does need to come back through as a site feature. So this is a proposed location of it, not
Just
a
the placement.
approval. Correct, but
Possible
it is
placement.
not reviewing the size, materials. It is proposed location, so it's not being reviewed. So with that, the items that have no bearing based on either one of the sets of plans, the ones that you have reviewed, which were submitted and in your staff report and on the screen, the site feature would be the same comment either way. The floor area, columns, colonnade, material change at the first floor, storefront, and cornice have been modified. If you were to take a look at the plans that I'm getting ready to pull up on the screen, and you think that the items that are there meet these criteria, you would still make a motion reflecting the items that are listed in your staff report, in the content here on the screen in the PowerPoint, because those would reflect the plans that were submitted formally through the Town of Bluffton. And in theory, his resubmittal, which you were about to see and has not been resubmitted yet, could address those comments.
Gotcha.
So the first item on there, and I'm going to have James, we'll duet it here a bit. So the first comment is the loft floor.
What I can tell you is that in this proposed solution, the loft floor and square footage is less than 70% and the 5-foot headroom.
So when you look at the floor plan here, this is the floor plan which is being proposed. And it is a proposed 1,348 square feet. Am I reading that right? Oops.
No.
Okay.
Oh, wait, first in-person meeting. Have a little excitement.
So 70% of 1,982, which is the first and second floor square area, would be 1,387.4. So 1,348 does meet 70% or less of that floor.
Okay.
That being said, again, we're going to make the motion based on what is submitted. So just know that they have made an attempt to address that, and we will do better math than on my cell phone on the fly. The next comment is the column spacing on the front and side elevations. Here is the column spacing on the front elevations where the two columns have been widened. I guess you can probably see it better on the floor plan here. So they are now spaced 9 feet and 3/8 of an inch apart, and they are 9 feet tall columns.
What's that?
Are they 9 foot tall columns?
Yes.
Okay. So the spacing on this,
No,
10 foot?
is 9 foot 4. They're essentially square.
Okay.
By the time you get to the edges, they're very wide.
Yeah.
It works.
So
So-
the dormer's not centered above them anymore?
Catch. That is,
They're basically aligned with something below.
That second bedroom was in the front, can it be shifted to align? The center?
so,
Couple things that came up in HPRC was the perhaps a more traditional true arch rather than a jack arch. So we made that change. And as one of the comments earlier, the reason why there was no cornice detail provided is because we had eliminated the cornice and went to just a traditional soldier course and row lock with a metal cap. And we also got rid of the precast around the base and again went with, just simplified all those details which came up at the HPRC to unamplify the cornice and base. So we actually did all of that. And we provided this beautiful elevation of what was behind the columns per the HPRC comments, showing that it's actually hardy plank. You can see the brick pilaster just in the center section. And we also, in the proposed solution, changed all the storefront to match up and did some detailing below the windows as well, so the storefront just didn't go all the way to the ground.
What about the gable end on the sides? Can we see that in the latest edition? We still have a little bit of Queen Anne detail up there. I think last time I remember thinking we had kind of mixed details in there. The little Queen Anne detail on the gable.
Change that from the last time. Happy to, I mean, it provides a little bit of cover over the door, but that did not change. But we did change the column spacing below to get those to be vertical. We also, there was a little confusion last time at HPRC about where the service yards were, and it appeared on the old elevation that the service yard wrapped under the stair. It doesn't, so we actually removed that similar horizontal hog fencing around the stair, not to make the service yard look bigger than it really was. Nothing really changed on the rear.
sorry, so where he's talking about the service yard, y'all, he is talking about this side elevation here, where it wraps the side. So instead of extending that service yard, which was on the rear and appeared to be on the side elevation here, it stops on the rear elevation.
The other comment that I just wanted is more of a conversation, which is about the colonnade versus porches. As we know, this is an additional building type. It's residential forms, even though this is a commercial building. And so all the other buildings were reviewed rather than being 30 inches out of the ground, they're at grade. That's essentially the change. So our intention on this design was not colonnades, but porches that don't have the 30-inch raised thing, which are a 6-foot. And all the other, remember some of the earlier designs, they had porches on the side. We decided to remove them here because we combined the commercial underneath. We put the stairs on the end so we could have one large tenant space. And so that's why those are 6 feet. And the fronts is porches, just the porches aren't raised 30 inches out of the ground to match the residential building type. Because Main Street buildings aren't, which have the colonnades, aren't allowed in this district. So just an explanation why they're 6 feet, because that's what the distance is required for porches rather than colonnades. Have a larger porch on the front. And I think that's the bulk of the previous comments from HPRC, as well as staff comments from their review of this HPC submittal. And again, I just want to apologize for the confusion. Wanted to make sure you knew we didn't ignore all of your comments and submit the exact same building that we submitted for HPRC. And wanted to bring those solutions in so at least we have some context rather than just talking about hypotheticals. Thanks. Happy to answer any more questions that come up.
Version 3 one more time, just slowly go through them.
Yes. This is the first floor plan. It does still show that. The challenge, and this is, again, these are not the plans that are being reviewed tonight. However, this does impact the motion you may make tonight because one of the items is that the colonnade would need to be increased. Under the colonnade section of the Unified Development Ordinance, it says that columns should not be proposed if they cannot meet the minimum depth. Porches are required to be 30 inches above grade. While this is an additional building type, those two details, whether they are proposed on a commercial, residential, or space building, those are the details that are prescribed in that. So if you do allow for the colonnade depth to be less than 8 feet, you'd be providing a reason for a deviation from that standard. And if you allow it to be considered a porch, it would need to be raised 30 inches or a deviation from that standard. So I'll point that out on the slide so that it's more clear as well. But just note that with this, that is something to take into consideration.
And again, the 30-inch thing actually is, again, why the whole building's lowered because of an additional building type because of the 30 inches. And again, the last time we reviewed these buildings, they had porches on the side, and that's how they were reviewed. And so obviously we eliminated them from a design aesthetic, so we took that here with the design intent of them being porches but at grade and no 30 inches rather
How
than
wide are they actually? Because the stairs plus the handrail would be wider than 6 feet, right?
It's 6 feet and change to the back side of the
7
column, to the center
By
line.
looking at, I
So
can't, she's moving around, I
10-inch
can't tell
column,
what she's doing here. 7 feet 9.
about 6'8", 6'7", by the time you take the thickness of the column.
Oh, are we doing the inside of the column to the wall? Okay.
The 30 inches is for porches.
Definition of a porch.
So for a residential structure, the first finished floor height is required to be 3 feet from average adjacent sidewalk grade, and porches are required to be 30 inches from adjacent grade. And so the porches section does not tie specifically to one or the other, while the first finished floor height is specific to those residential structures.
And the genesis of this whole project in the very first review was it has to be a residential structure. But it's not a residential structure. It's a commercial structure per the development agreement. And so we basically asked for additional building type to take a residential structure and drop it down at grade rather than raising the commercial structure up for ADA compliance. So that's the nuances of commercial versus residential, but it's really meant to be a residential center hall-like building at grade.
So I'm scrolling through floor plans here. This is the second floor. And then the loft floor with the floor plans. I'm just going to pull that up real quick. While it has changed some, I just want you to see that the shape of it, the general shape anyways, is very similar.
Go back to the colonnade. It is a colonnade, it's not a porch, just by definition. On the other hand, it's a big building. I'm not sure I want to see it 4 feet wider. So in this case, I think it's appropriate to have those narrower. They're not really occupied, they're just walkways at that point. Not where many people will be walking. The intent of an 8-foot colonnade is on a Main Street type building is so people can pass each other and there's more traffic there. The sides are not going to have that much traffic.
Here's that front elevation with the modified, no longer cornice detail, and the modified arch to reflect the comments that we had at HPRC.
I, for one, would like to see the dormer centered over the columns. It looks funny to me.
Yeah, if that's an easy fix, that would be nice. I'm not sure you'd ever notice unless you're standing 40 feet away, but it is off, and so it's going to get you.
Here is the storefront detail where the size of this horizontal trim piece above the door has been widened a bit here so that it is
What is
3.5 inches
to?
tall.
Okay, gotcha. See it.
I highlight,
you.
I'm sorry.
It's hanging there. So then my only comment is the odd little Queen Anne detail in the gable end. Got two different styles going. You'll never see them in the same view, but
Solid?
the little truss detail, yeah.
The goal would be to try to get a little cover over that door, but we could get rid of the truss and just actually fill that in and just put hardy siding at maybe a 3-inch exposure or something like that.
On the front, it's turning into a fairly clean
So just
structure, no particular style.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I do appreciate what I'm seeing on the screen with the storefront main entrance with the true archway and I guess my thing that I would just not obviously I completely believe I have been in the same boat as far as submitting something to an ARB that's kind of not the current plans, but I do want to just say just the precedent of someone could submit plans and then turn around and get extra time to work on things for that additional time. I mean, it's tough. We don't have that many on the agenda, but if there was 3 or 4 things on the agenda, it's just tough to have this many comments and this many changes not to get reviewed.
I 100% appreciate that. And again,
That's where-
I would come to you and say this was an absolute honest mistake, unfortunately. And more importantly, I felt horrible that it came across as you reviewed these, that we completely ignored the comments from the HPRC, because we've always aimed to solve those things that come up.
Jesse, I do appreciate that. I think that was the, how do we prevent this from happening in the future?
If it were a pattern, we should address it, but it doesn't.
I'm not asking you to provide a motion or anything based upon what the new stuff you're seeing in front of you, but I just thought it would be useful to provide context in a response rather than just saying,
No,
make the column spacing
I
correct.
appreciate that, especially because a lot of those comments, sometimes you just don't know how it'll be. I mean, you can say, make it even, but for instance, we were able to see the dormer and the relationship of that column, the new column spacing. The one thing I was going to ask, like we're talking about, sorry, I probably missed the boat on this, the porch, the differentiation between if we are classifying it as a porch or a colonnade. Where was like a particular staff comment where we're having to make a
The
ruling?
question was, is it a colonnade with a deviation to 6 feet on the sides, or is
Number
it a
3.
porch with a deviation of the 30-inch elevation?
Gotcha.
It's a colonnade, so
So it's on page 23 of your packet, but it is section 2, item 3. Colonnades, arcades shall have a minimum depth of 8 feet. It's section 515.6E3, which is on your screen now. Where it says that the depth is an 8-foot minimum from the build-to line to the inside column face, 18 inches from the outside column face to the curb. In this case, there is no curb because this is a building pad. However, the inside face, or the build-to line where the structure begins to the inside of the column face is that 8-foot minimum depth. The other section there is that colonnades shall only be constructed where the minimum depth can be obtained. That's section E of the same section there. And then for porches, that is this section here that shows that the height, this is for porches, full stop, that they are a minimum of 30 inches from grade to top of stairs with 96-inch maximum. And then just so that it is here, the section that I was talking about with residential versus commercial, that is here, which is 515.6F, says that residential structures shall have a first finished floor height of a raised a minimum of 3 feet above average adjacent sidewalk grade, and can be elevated as much as 5 feet. This is a commercial structure, so it cannot be a residential building type. Commercial structures can be built at grade. It's usually preferred because that means that they don't have to include a ramp or other accessible means to get into the structure. That being said, they can be proposed at a higher elevation should they so choose, which is when that porch thing may be able to be more beneficial there than a colonnade in this case.
Wondering if it needs to be a colonnade, if it can be a bracketed 6 feet out, though, that's kind of.
I don't think on commercial structure colonnades are required on the sides, just the front.
Right, that's why I'm thinking if you were to cut off the front colonnade.
I tend to think that the colonnade is on the front and then it's.
Well, on one of the other
Have to classify
buildings,
the sides?
didn't you cantilever out something, or you had?
We had some basically 6-foot deep porches that came all the way down, but they didn't wrap the corner because there was only a
Right.
single stair. So we removed those and we had some brackets, but it wasn't a thoroughfare to get up to the third floor.
Right.
It was
Show
just
us the side view.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know, I'm just talking out loud here. The colonnade is on the front, but I mean, on the sides, it's not actually, there's no, at that point, it is residential, because that'd be the only reason why you would be going there, right? I mean, to go up to the residences.
This is a commercial structure.
Right.
It is a mixed-use structure, which is a commercial structure. This cannot be classified as a residential structure in any way,
No, he
besides
mentioned
just that
it's just going
it can be
up to the
occupied.
residentials at
Right.
that point.
Gotcha.
So the,
But it is supposed to take on residential characteristics because the zoning district wants it to have a primarily residential character. However, it is a commercial structure with,
definitely a commercial
with this here.
structure. I'd have to go back and look at the details of the very first meeting when we covered all of this, of it being in a residential district as a commercial structure. And even the previous review was reviewed all house, even though it was at grade. So we tried to preserve those things. It's kind of one of those chicken and egg things. It's meant to emulate a residential-like structure, even though it's a commercial building at grade.
I guess what you were trying to say is that could say, yes, we could allow that because when you're looking at it, it becomes more of the residential part as opposed to a commercial building at that point. Even though it's not, it might be the reason to say, yeah, that's okay.
Residential circulation area. I'm looking at this end elevation and just wondering if you need to have that porch go all the way up to the front, if it can come back, and then at that point, have columns that reach the ground.
The top door goes out onto that deck.
Well, you can put big brackets there, but just because of where the stairs are, there's no place to put a bracket. It gets complicated. But I was just thinking if it were diminished a little bit by one bay from the south, then it's less of a colonnade and more of a support for the it's only 2 bays. It's hard to say that that's even a colonnade.
Wondering if we even have to call it anything.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
only because of the definition. It's
yeah.
Neither a porch or a colonnade technically are required on the sides.
why I'm trying to get rid of it. Get rid of the
We gotta
columns.
get up.
What is it? If it smites you, cut it off.
No, because that's the thing. I mean, I'll just speak out loud. You would like to encourage these kinds of things as far as, let me read the section one more time.
I thought it was roof over the stairwell to keep you out of the elements in the rain while you're walking up and down stairs, but it's not actually roofed over there. It's roofed as little porches.
Well,
Stairs are porches.
circulation to get to the residential units. Ended up having a tenant that needed. The other buildings had split tenants in the stair in the middle. Tenants signed up, kind of needed all the space, so we stairs to the outside to get up to the.
That's the primary entrance for those units upstairs.
That's the only entrance to get up there to the residential units. All of them. And our intention would be,
Actually are out in the elements on the stairs if it's raining. Adobe, yeah.
you'll see this, so this really truly is just the circulation. There's actually the railing like the other ones continues on here. So you'd actually have to go in this unit to get out to the open air porch.
I
You
mean,
could almost classify it as all just a stair with an oversized landing on the side of it. But that's really what it is. It's strictly a vertical circulation to a landing to get in here and then continuing up.
Railing going across the sides of
Like the other one, so any person who lives in the third floor can't get to the porch of the person that lives in the second floor. It would match the railing on the outside, just like the other ones. And again, you come up to the third floor here, it's strictly to. Not. It is strictly vertical circulation to get to this residential units. You come up the stair, front porch, into the front door here.
That's why I was trying to separate it from the front colonnade, which is public access. And then if you cut out that southeast corner and southwest corner and make them not flow together, then they're not associated. That bay. And then that's really, truly, strictly some little entry porches and the stairs. Also get rid of that probably difficult detail you have at the third floor wraparound porch where it meets the roof. At this point, we're just being armchair designers, but it just means that there are some options for diminishing the size of those side colonnade / porches. Less, hierarchically, the front one is the important one for the public access in the front ground level, and that the side is truly just
I mean, that's how I feel about it. I mean, right now, that the colonnade serving the commercial.
Little section here.
I think that would make it simpler and meet the intent.
Build, so we certainly have, I'm sure my client will be happy. Happy to eliminate the corner, happy to center up. And, if there was a motion to center up the dormers. I think we've.
Help me understand what that.
Make that center columned area come in one bay on each side. So it would make the building look smaller, which is nice, because right now it looks very, very wide.
So you're going to eliminate that basically. Front, but you're going to have the stairs hanging on the side.
But those will also be in, that colonnade on the side will also go away on the
And how are
plan.
you going to address, when you look at it from the front,
In plan, you get rid of that corner and that corner. You can't, if they do that, you can't come into here and walk around there, but I don't think you can anyway, it's got a railing.
It's got a railing.
visually from the front, what are we going to see?
It gets narrower.
But we're just going to see steps then. This way we're looking at an architectural somewhat element. By eliminating that corner, now all I see hanging on the side of the building are steps.
But they're going to be farther back.
They're going to be farther back, but still it'll be a visual front view. So is there a way to
Probably pros and cons of both.
Yeah, there's
I mean,
pros
if we're
and
trying to
cons in
justify
both.
the
I
6
guess-
foot, 8 foot.
Yeah, I
I-
personally don't have a problem with the width of it just because of its purpose and really the flow of circulation there.
Architecturally, I would prefer to see this than eliminating that corner and seeing stairways, because that's all you would see, in a sense. This somewhat hides those stairways.
Does.
Yeah.
Gives the building more horizontality I actually like that. Once I started thinking about it getting narrower, I don't know that that's necessarily better in this
I'm not
building.
gonna like the look of that. I'm preferring colonnade, stairway, place to enter, whatever we want to call it.
It doesn't sound like anyone has a problem with the width of the side porch colonnade.
Again, we can say, because we're considering it more of the residential portion, even if it's not a residential building.
Right. It's residential circulation, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bring back the unfortunate submittal that was put in front of you before. But we all agree it looks better now.
Are we ready for a motion at this point, or is there?
Briefly before you make a motion, so that we can just get our, at least ducks in the same pond, if not a row. I would caution the reasoning for the deviation being based on residential access, as that opens up the possibility for a lot of structures to come in with those narrow sides. In this case, the stairwell is 2 full stairwells wide, meaning it is approximately 6 feet plus a little space that is in addition to that on the side. Where on a smaller scale structure, it may not have a double back and could be as narrow as 3 feet. That being said, while things are reviewed on an individual case-by-case basis, the deviation, because it is residential access, which is in a mixed use, the rationale behind that may pose a few challenges in the future. I've brought up the site feature application that we had tonight because this does have the past criteria for deviations that we have used because of its location, setting, size, shape, or physical characteristics or other aspect of the property. It is the proposed use substantially justifies some adjustment in the standards. The intent of the specific standard can be achieved on the site through alternative means or special design approaches, or methods volunteered by the applicant will effectively remediate or mitigate any potential adverse impacts. So while, yes, there are residential units up above, and this is being accessed for that,
Just don't talk about it.
I would encourage you to find a way to include that if that is the deviation you're wanting to permit, that is specific to this site and how they're possibly mitigating those potential adverse effects, rather than a use standard which is not part of Article 5 and has a harder time with that
So just
deviation.
don't mention residential or the reasons for, in other words, going back to.
We can talk more about geometry of this particular building rather than the fact that it's a residential access.
Okay. Questions? Jesse?
Larger than they are as well.
Just break these things. I keep hitting the glass, but then that would readjust your whole across the front if you stretch it out.
It would just get wider. That last bay would get wider by 2 feet.
But then it's not going to be uniform, so you would have to adjust everything, and then that changes the columns, and it changes.
It's not uniform anyway right now, right? The outside ones have a different
The outside
proportion.
ones are smaller.
Yeah.
Potentially smaller. I think if you did add 2 more feet to that, it would be almost, be like one of these, like almost the same, but not quite. It would look like a mistake rather than it being intentional, but that's just my opinion.
By motion? That's what she just did.
All right, so
Yeah.
if it would be easy for him just to add the 2 feet, are we opening the door by just letting it go?
I am not familiar enough with the development plan to know if there is space to increase the width of this building by 2 feet, including the porches. James may be able to speak more clearly on that, however.
It is. It will be wider than the other buildings that have already been approved.
Proportionality, it'll,
It already looks bigger because we have another set of stairs on the side of it, and then we're going to make it even bigger. I should say longer. The square footage isn't changing, but the building is going to get even longer than it
I
already
don't know
is.
that we're gaining anything by asking it to be wider.
I agree. You're gaining extra porch
Yeah,
on the sides.
because it's not actually a main street. It's not like people are walking there. Yeah. Well, we can give it a go. Should I start trying to make a motion?
that would be great if,
All right,
thank you.
I make a motion to accept this proposal with the following qualifications. That the loft floor be reduced in size to be no more than 70% of the story directly beneath it. That the column spacing on the front and side elevations be revised to be spaced no farther apart than they are tall, as measured from center lines of the columns. That the side colonnade be allowed to stay the width that it is because of the geometry of this particular building and its relationship to the other buildings on the site. That the dormer location be centered on the column geometry. That the colonnade, let's see, we did the colonnade, that the material change, that there is no material change on the first floor. On the first floor walls. That the storefront be revised from 2-inch aluminum storefront to a more traditional material with thicker members. And that the cornice detail be provided and reduced in size. That any proposed signage on this building be presented in a separate application. And that the Queen Anne detailing on the side gables should be reconsidered and maintain a consistent architectural style on the building.
Mr. Chairman, if I could summarize her motion just to ensure that I have it correctly for the record.
Certainly, and
It is my understanding of the motion that has been made is that it is going to be per staff recommendation 1, 2, that the colonnade on the side elevation may deviate from 8 feet because of the geometry of this building and the relationship to the other buildings in the same development plan. That the center lines of the dormers shall remain over the center line of the columns to ensure that it is centered if that needs to change with the column additions. Per staff recommendation 4, which may or may not be changed as a resubmitted document arrives. Per staff recommendation 5, 6, although that may change, 7, and then the additional comment that the Queen Anne detailing on the side elevation be reconsidered to maintain consistent architectural style per section 515.5 F3. Did I understand your motion correctly?
Did indeed. Thank you very much.
Great.
So you agree, Elaine?
I agree.
Very good, thank you. So we have a motion and I need, looking for a second.
I second the motion.
Is there any further discussion on this motion? If not, we'll have it up for a vote. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed as motioned.
Perfect. Thank you, Bruce.
I want to
Now-
publicly thank you all for reviewing this, and I apologize, and I assure you this will not become a habit. And I do appreciate the conversations and dialogue, and thank you for your time this evening.
Now, understanding again that this is going to be brought back forth
To HPRC.
HPRC, and HPRC will have the ability to, once it's submitted in the proper format, and then you have it on an agenda, it'll be presented to HPRC, so it doesn't
Yes,
have to
sir.
come to this body again.
Unless
has to come to this body
HPC
again,
feels
yes.
the need to
See,
bring
yes,
it back to you.
yes, thank you.
However, with the motion made,
We have that in the minutes.
that works.
That, I don't believe we have anything else on the agenda unless there's any discussion points. Charlotte or Katie?
The only item of discussion is that, hey, it's June 1st, which means it is no longer Preservation Month, but if you did not catch the Historic Preservation Symposium, it is on the town's Facebook page as a recorded meeting. And the group from Metters, it was Betty Prime, Kaylin McNabb, and Fillmore Wilson, did an excellent job discussing the Squire Pope Carriage House. So if you did miss that, take a look at that. There's also an interview through WTOC on the property that was about a week before that. And then on the Facebook page, every Saturday, I believe it was, there were preservation activities. So if you missed those, go back, do them. Even though it's not May anymore, you can still celebrate preservation.
I'm so glad you recorded that. Thank you for doing that, because I was in the middle of class and couldn't go.
It was actually very interesting, you know, the history behind that and what they're doing.
Well,
And
I know enough from the project my students did, but it looks like there were a lot of additional photographs found, so I'm really excited to see that.
There were.
yeah, there's some pretty, it's an interesting property. And it's really interesting that the town is committing to spending the money, doing it, and doing it properly. That goes with what our community as HPC does.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Okay. I guess with that, I'm looking for a motion for adjournment.
We adjourn. And you have your little gavel today. You can bang us out.
I can.
We have a motion.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Gavel.
7